Chapter 331. The Sea Gods Fall. TL by Babelson. The same moment Xiao Wu cried out, Tang San and BB Dong's final clash occurred. Sword Duo and Bone Duo didn't die for nothing. Even if their attack couldn't harm BB Dong, without a doubt the two title duo's full strength attack forced her to pay attention to them. Controlling those 9 sickles still required quite a bit of divine sense and power as backing to kill the two. BB Dong hadn't expected Tang San to still have the power to launch an attack when stabbed through the back by her Rakshasa scythe, and as a result she used her personal divine ability to appear in front of Tang San because she thought highly enough of him that she couldn't be relieved unless she finished him by her own hand. But a portion of her divine sense was separated to control the sickles. Indeed, when Tang San broke the Sun Angel, he did so with all his effort. The consumption of his divine power and the injuries he suffered from the shockwave were extremely serious. However, BB Dong forgot one thing. Before Tang San became God, his strength wasn't his spirit abilities, but rather his mental strength. When he'd barely reached the title duo level, Tang San's mental strength was enough to place above her who at the time was rank 99. The abilities Spirit Masters gained after inheriting divinity were admittedly closely linked to the god they inherited, but it was also linked to their foundational strength. If not, how could Tang San have been able to effortlessly suppress Chen Renshu? Therefore, after becoming the sea god, Tang San's strength was still the power of his mind, and not the sea god's divine power. The previous clash with Chen Renshu, as well as the serious injuries from the Rakshasa scythe, exhausted divine power and injured his body, but the consumption of mental strength was limited, just the portion used for controlling the divine power. His head still hadn't taken any attacks. Glittering golden light shot from Tang San's eyes, condensed from Tang San's full unreserved mental power. The enormous divine sense reached an unprecedented level, and with Tang San watching Sword Duo and Bone Duo face BB Dong's attack, the anxiety and anger he felt sublimated his mental power. Under this sudden clash, even though BB Dong was in her ideal state, she was still at a disadvantage. The mental clash made no sound, but Tang San and BB Dong's reactions showed how bitter it was, even more intense than Tang San's earlier sea god Twilight breaking the Sun Angel. After BB Dong suffered the golden light attack shooting from Tang San's eyes, she looked like her head had been struck straight on, her whole body flying back, trembling violently. Even her Rakshasa raiment came off, disappearing as purple light. A purple light suddenly exploded from her head, screams like wailing ghosts filling the air. She flew backward like unconscious, with purple blood spraying from the openings in her head. Tang San was even worse off. In a confrontation of two gods using their full strength, even though he had the advantage of BB Dong being distracted, he was after all heavily injured, tired. From this sudden clash, 2 golden blood arrows shot from the wounds in his chest and back. The sea god raiment cracked, turning into specks of light and disappearing. Even the sea god trident turned into a stream of light that entered the trident brand on his forehead. Intense golden light burst from that brand, streaming out like a big river. All the light around Tang San dwindled, and unable to control his strength at all, he fell towards Sterling Pass. The purple stream finally shot back to BB Dong's forehead. Managing to open her eyes, she forcefully moved her body. With a sharp cry, one claw swatted at Tang San. Instantly, a purple claw image shot through space and caught up to Tang San, slashing through the left side of his chest. A golden heart appeared in the air, grabbed by that purple demon claw. No! Several mournful cries echoed simultaneously, from Xiao Wu, Ning Rongrong, Oscar, Grandmaster, Tang Hao, and even Hulina who was holding Chen Renshu. Hulina's eyes were streaked with tears, her whole body limp on the ground. Chen Renshu had also been shaken awake, just in time to see Tang San's heart being gripped by the Rakshasa claw, but none of them could decide what the Rakshasa god would do. Splat! Glaring golden light exploded in the air, Tang San's body contorting violently, and his heart had already turned into light swirling in all directions. Oscar howled mournfully, swiftly swallowing a mirror sausage made from Ma Hongzhen's blood. Soaring into the air, he caught Tang San's mutilated body. BB Dong swayed unsteadily in the air, her malevolent cyan face still bleeding constantly from all openings, evidence of how terrifying the injuries she suffered from Tang San's all-out mental stab were. An ice-cold voice seemed to fill the sky. People of Heaven Do Empire, hear me well. I'll give you 3 days to prepare. In 3 days, the Heaven Do Empire must declare its unconditional surrender, or I will blood purge the Empire. Xiao Gang, granting these 3 days to give you face, properly urged the Heaven Do Emperor not to be obstinate. The powers of gods are incontestable. Her speech over, BB Dong casually raised her finger, and was surrounded by purple light, re-equipping the Rakshasa raiment. Tremendous purple light covered the entire sky like a purple cloud. BB Dong issued a peal of shrill laughter, and disappeared into the Spirit Empire army in a purple flash. Chen Renshu and Hulina disappeared with her. Whether they were soldiers of the Spirit Empire or the Heaven Do Empire, none had time to react. The whole battle hadn't gone on for very long, but the outcome had shocked both sides. Just a little while ago, the Heaven Do Empire had held an overwhelming advantage, but in a short few moments, the circumstances had been completely reversed. Even though only 3 people had died on the Heaven Do Empire's side, counting Tang San, just as BB Dong said, who could stop the power of a god. Oscar descended with Tang San, and Xiao Wu and Ning Rongrong instantly rushed over. Tang Hao also returned to the walls, and everyone gathered around Tang San. Xiao Wu threw herself at Tang San practically shouting. Tang San's injuries were disastrous. A gaping hole on the left side of his chest, but even more fatal was the 15-centimeter diameter hole in his right. Golden flesh, blood vessels and bones were exposed to the air. His blood seemed like it was being sucked out, congealing around the wounds. His face no longer had a trace of color, let alone signs of life. Even though barely any time had passed, his body was already ice-cold, without a hint of warmth. Worry and concern instantly filled the top of Sterling Pass. Shui Bang was dumbfounded, his knees hitting the ground next to Tang San. Tang Hao and Grandmaster were shocked as well. Just a moment ago their common son had been the glorious sea god, and now he had become an ice-cold corpse. Nobody could accept this fact. 7 Treasure Glazed Tile Schoolmaster Ning Fengji seemed to have aged a decade in an instant. His steps unsteady as he left Sterling Pass. Even though it would be impossible to do so completely, he still wanted to personally collect the bodies of Sword and Bone Duo. How could you? How could you leave me like this? You can't die. You can't die. Xiao Wu wailed until she was hoarse. But right now Tang San had no way to answer her. You promised. You promised to marry me. You even said you would give me the grandest wedding. You still haven't fulfilled that. How can you die? Please, wake up, okay? Wake up. Whatever I have to pay, as long as you wake up, I'll agree. Even someone as manly as Oscar had his cheeks streaming with tears. Yes, little San, how can you die? Didn't we say that after the war is over, we Shrek 7 devils would travel across the entire continent? There's still lots of places we haven't gone. Didn't you tell me that you wanted to go see the far north where I lived? I'll bring you. So hurry up and wake up. I'll bring you. With a thump. Grandmaster collapsed to his knees with a pale face, mumbling to himself, don't tell me, am I really the bane of others? Why do the people close to me always suffer? Even a god is no exception. It's all my fault, all my fault. I shouldn't have let little San see me as a father. I shouldn't have. I should die. Why not let me die? Little San, you shouldn't have saved me. I'd rather have died on my own than see my child die before me. Lu Erlong leaned over, tightly holding Grandmaster. Xiao Gang, no, don't be like this. Don't scare me. Tang Hao pushed through the crowd, coming up to Tang San. He didn't cry, maybe the only person who didn't shed tears, but his eyes had turned completely blood red. Looking at Tang San and Xiao Wu's arms, there was no longer any trace of the clear sky Duo's spirit in his eyes. Little San, do you remember? Our days back in Holy Spirit Village. Back then I was drunk every day, and every day you looked after me instead. You are a good son, but I'm not a good father. Everything today is because of me. I never fulfilled my responsibilities as a father. I wanted to wait until the end of the war to make up everything to you and your mother, but now it seems I can't. Your mother didn't want to see the war and went back to Heaven Do City. I don't have the face to see her. Don't walk so fast on the road to hell. Wait for Dad. I'll be with you very soon. As he spoke, Tang Hao sharply turned around and walked away. Oscar reacted fastest, lunging forward and grabbed Tang Hao's waist. Uncle, you can't go. Tang Hao was pulled to a halt. The effect of Oscar's mirror image sausage still wasn't gone, and a title duo's strength was after all quite formidable. Let go. If any of you can make it back to Heaven Do City, tell Hyan for me. I don't have to face to go see her. Let her return to the great Stardow Forest. In my whole life I have done nothing for my son. Now that my son has been struck dead, how can an old man like me bury his head in the sand? Don't try to stop me. Nobody can. Dying on the battlefield is always better than waiting to die. Tang Hao emanated a kind of unusual grandeur. Nobody dared look him in the face. Oscar also couldn't help slowly letting go. Just as Tang Hao was about to step forward, Grandmaster's stiff voice suddenly echoed, "Wait a moment. Little San doesn't have just one father. There's me as well. You can't leave me out when avenging our son. Even if I can't take revenge, I will still go with my son. Or do you think they would let us go in 3 days? Dying on the battlefield? Then Tang Hao, let us die on the battlefield together." Tang Hao watched Grandmaster with blood-red eyes. Grandmaster's eyes didn't redden, on the contrary growing exceptionally calm. But the deathly stillness of that calm was even more frightening than Tang Hao's blood-red eyes. Lu Erlong didn't stop Grandmaster, only grabbing his hand. "Bring me too. On the road to hell. I'll go with you." With a metallic sound, Shui Bang violently drew his sword, turning to Marshal Ji Long. "Marshal, I leave Jolin Pass to you. In 3 days, lead our soldiers to submit to the Spirit Empire's mercy. Make sure not to let the officers and soldiers resist. Your Majesty, what are you doing?" Alarmed, Marshal Ji Long immediately grabbed Shui Bang's arm. Shui Bang roared, "This is an order, our imperial decree. Would you defy our decree?" Marshal Ji Long slowed, but his hand didn't let go. "Your subject dare not. But, as long as your subject still draws breath, I cannot see your Majesty throw your life away." Shui Bang said coldly, "Teacher has already died for the cause, whether as monarch or as teacher's disciple. I can't live without purpose. I'm the Emperor of the Heaven Do Empire, even if I haven't sat on the throne for long. But as a ruler I must undertake my own responsibilities. This war was started at my order. Now it's impossible for me to win against 2 gods. That being the case, more resistance would only lead to more death. I can't watch my men and people die for nothing. Therefore, I will have you lead everyone to surrender. Preserve the spark of life of our Heaven Do Empire. But even if others can surrender, I cannot. I cannot embarrass the line of my ancestors. I cannot embarrass the first Emperor. Marshal, there's no use stopping me. When I go to Jolin Pass, please lead the officers to watch carefully. I only hope for my death to leave a seed of hope in everyone's hearts. I believe the day will come when my Heaven Do Empire rises to glory again. Your Majesty." Large swathes of officers knelt on top of the walls, their eyes already red. Without a doubt, Shui Bang had completely conquered their hearts as monarch. "I wish to live and die with your Majesty. The Heaven Do Empire has no cowardly soldiers." Marshal Ji Long fell to his knees. "Your Majesty, if you must go, please leave the mission of surrendering to someone else. Let your old subject follow you." A bitter atmosphere spread. Even though Tang San was dead, at this moment the soldiers atop the walls were unprecedentedly united. As the saying goes, a grieving army is bound to win. Each person's eyes were filled with unrivaled fighting spirit. "Your Majesty, give the order. We have 1,000,000 heroes, so what if that is a god? We can still drown her. Death before surrender. Death before surrender." A roar erupted that was audible even outside the walls, even at the Spirit Empire encampment. Right now in the Spirit Empire camp, BB Dong grabbed Shen Rinchu with one hand, Hulina with the other, returning to the tent. Hearing the voices from the direction of Jolin Pass, BB Dong's sinister face revealed a trace of disdain. "Death before surrender? Then in 3 days I'll start by blood purging Jolin Pass." As she spoke, she dropped Shen Rinchu and Hulina on the ground. "Teacher." Hulina's voice trembled, tears rolling uncontrollably from her eyes. You really killed him. Facing anyone, even her own daughter, BB Dong's expression was always grim. Only when facing Hulina did she show a trace of gentleness. "Nana, I know you liked him, but you should also understand that you and him could never be." "True, Tang San was a genius beyond this world. Even I have to admit I was inferior, but now he is dead. You have to accept fact. Teacher had to kill him, or ruin our Spirit Empire. I also did this out of consideration for you." Tang San's mind crashed against mine. I crushed his body, and even shattered his heart. Even as a god, his death is certain. Now I'd like to see who can still stop me from unifying the continent. If you don't kill me now, that person might be me." Shen Rinchu's ice-cold voice reached BB Dong's ears. BB Dong frowned, turning her head to gaze at her never-affectionate daughter. Shen Rinchu's expression was stubborn, her lips pressed together, looking at BB Dong with hatred in her eyes. You would stop me. I didn't expect you to be that ambitious too." BB Dong sneered. Shen Rinchu smiled coldly. "Ambitious? Yes, I'm ambitious, but that's not important to me right now. What's important is that whatever you want to do, I will stop. Also, there's one thing you might not know. Tang San was also the only man I've liked in my life." BB Dong stared. "You liked him too?" Shen Rinchu's eyes were hazy. The instant Tang San's heart was crushed by BB Dong, she suddenly felt like her chest was empty, as if her heart had been crushed rather than Tang San's. All her hatred for Tang San had disappeared with his crushed heart. All that remained was hollowness and pain. Like this she discovered that the man she loved, she still loved even when they were enemies from the start. Even though she'd wanted Tang San destroyed more than once. When he truly died, the heartache stopped her breath. "He could only die by my hand, but you killed him. BB Dong, kill me too. Otherwise I will be your enemy hereafter." Shen Rinchu forced out through gritted teeth, her tears finally rolling down her cheeks. BB Dong's expression changed several times, and she raised her hand, but in the end she didn't strike. "If you want to fight me, you best start by restoring your arm. Can you fight me at your current strength?" The Rakshasa god is one of the 2 great killing gods, and has a certain restraining effect on other divinities. Even Tang San in his most flourishing state might not be my opponent, let alone you. BB Dong looked coldly at her daughter, then left the tent without turning around. At Jolin Pass. Just as the impassioned crowd was about to charge out of Jolin Pass, Poison Dullo, who had always been quietly watching Tang San's body, spoke up. "Your Majesty is right. Don't do any pointless sacrifices. Even if you added in twice your numbers, you still wouldn't be a threat to BB Dong." His words immediately drew the gazes of everyone present. Du Gubo's face was calm, but the people familiar with him knew that this was the expression he showed each time he was the most worked up. Du Gubo said, "Even before becoming a god, BB Dong's poison abilities were above mine. Now that she's a god, her abilities in this respect will only be stronger, less likely to go out of control like mine." She wasn't joking about blood purging the Heaven Do Empire. If you don't want to let your subordinates die in vain, then give up all thoughts of fighting. You basically don't stand a chance to even charge up to the Spirit Empire army. Du Gubo was undeniably persuasive. His jade phosphorus serpent Emperor Poison had left an extremely deep impression on everyone. Poison Dullo slowly walked over to Shui Bang, then looked over Grandmaster and Tang Hao, whose gazes hadn't changed in the slightest. "Let's go. I also want to do something for the little freak. Since it's decided, let's go together." Oscar stepped forward. "Nom, Little San was my brother. When Boss Dai isn't here, I'm the oldest of the Shrek 7 devils. I'll go." Little Owl. Ning Rongrong rushed over, but Oscar interrupted her before she could speak. "Rongrong, listen, you have to stay. You're someone who might become a god. We can only rely on you for our future mission of revenge." Ning Rongrong still didn't let go of Oscar's hand. "Don't tell me you don't have a chance of becoming a god. Nobody be impulsive. Let's think of another way." Oscar laughed at himself. "Can there be any other way? Against 2 gods, we're only human. What else can we do? Rongrong, I'm a man, just like when I went to the far north for you. Right now, as a brother, I can't cower. Otherwise, even if everyone goes to hell later, what face would I have to meet Little San? Or Boss Dai?" Ning Rongrong's eyes reddened, drawing a deep breath. "If that's the case, what reason do I have to stay behind? Xiao Wu is enough to take care of third brother's body. You don't fear death, so do I have to? I'm going with you." As she spoke, Ning Rongrong's grip on Oscar's hand grew even tighter, her expression telling him that there was no margin for discussion. Tang Hao and Grandmaster were the first to step off the walls, followed by Shui Bang, Marshal Ji Long, Poison Dullo and the others. Just as Oscar and Ning Rongrong were about to catch up, suddenly, they trembled simultaneously, both their gazes by chance turning to their clasped hands. Before their eyes Oscar's hand had turned faintly white, and Ning Rongrong's was enshrouded in 9 colors. The white and 9-colored lights sparkled and dazzled, slowly revolving around their hands. Their expressions simultaneously turned dull, both halting their steps, looking at each other with incredulous gazes. Immediately, Oscar shouted loudly, "Hang on, Tang Hao." Grandmaster and the others acted like they didn't hear his voice, and those soldiers on top of the walls even looked over with mocking expressions. It seemed to them that Oscar and Ning Rongrong were cowering back just as events were coming to a head, but Ning Rongrong's next shout suddenly changed everyone's expressions. Third brother can be saved. It was 5 simple words, but they seemed to instantly freeze all of Jolin Pass. Everyone's expressions changed. Xiao Wei sharply raised a face streaked with tears of blood. Tang Hao instantly returned from furthest in front. The soldiers' expressions were stunned. In an instant, Oscar and Ning Rongrong had become the focal point of everyone. The next moment, Tang Hao practically teleported in front of the pair, forcefully grabbing Oscar's shoulders. You said what? Little Sam can be saved? Oscar's eyes brimmed with excitement, his voice turning a bit shrill. Uncle, look. As he spoke, he raised his and Ning Rongrong's clasped hands. Little Sam can be saved. We have a way to heal him. Grandmaster and the others had also returned. Oscar and Ning Rongrong's words were like a fast-acting heart medicine for Grandmaster, immediately returning him to his senses, eagerly asking, how? What way? Oscar said excitedly, Grandmaster, we were thrown into battle just as we returned from Seagod Island and never had the time to report our last spirit abilities to you. You remember? Grandmaster nodded. Your last spirit rings 100,000 year. I remember. How is that related to saving Little Sam's life? Oscar said, 100,000 year spirit rings should normally possess 2 spirit abilities. My 9th spirit ability is half diamond sausage, and Rongrong's 9th spirit ability is 9 treasure peerless godlight. We only have 100,000 year spirit ability. But, just now when me and Rongrong held hands, we triggered our second 100,000 year spirit ability, and it's a spirit ability that has to be used jointly by us. Grandmaster had researched spirits all his life, and while others might still be a bit perplexed, he reacted instantly. You're saying that you two have a 100,000 year spirit fusion ability? A spirit fusion ability produced by spirit abilities? That's right. Oscar and Ning Rongrong spoke as one. Spirit fusion abilities were only possible when both spirit masters had spirits with extremely high compatibility, like Zhu King and Dai Mubai, whose spirits had very high compatibility and were moreover naturally gifted with the ability to fuse. But spirit fusion abilities from fusing spirit abilities like Oscar and 9 Inch Nails Rongrong were extremely rare, even rarer than natural spirit fusion abilities. And spirit fusion abilities like these usually had extremely high compatibility. Tang Hao anxiously asked, "You're saying that this spirit fusion ability of yours can resurrect Lil San? Then what are we waiting for? Start now." No, wait a moment. Grandmaster suddenly stopped them. Not here. Let's return to the marshalling hall first. Tang Hao clapped a hand to his forehead. Look at me. Lost my mind with anxiety. That's right. Let's return first. The top of the Jelling Pass walls really were too conspicuous. Even though they still didn't understand how Oscar and Ning Rongrong could resurrect, they of course hoped it was true. And resurrecting a god would definitely cause abnormal manifestations. Just in case the process was discovered by the Spirit Empire, then even their last hope would be gone. Xiao Wei carried Tang San's body and rushed over to Ning Rongrong and Oscar in a few steps. Let's go. Burning with hope. She had also grown stronger. Xiao Wei stood straight, not looking uncoordinated, even carrying Tang San. She was the first to fly into Jelling Pass. Tang Hao, Grandmaster, Wu Erlong, Flender, Oscar, Shui Bang and others rushed after. But Ning Rongrong delayed a step, turning her head to look at her father who was still collecting the bodies of Sword and Bone Duluo. Tears unconsciously covered her beautiful face. She thought to herself, I'm sorry, Sword Grandpa, Bone Grandpa, Rongrong can't collect your bodies. If Rongrong is still here after we resurrect third brother, Rongrong will warn you then. Sharply swinging her head around, Ning Rongrong quickly chased after the others with a heart full of grief. It was impossible to completely block the news. Shui Bang also didn't give any order to stop it. Very soon the entire Heaven Do army in Jelling Pass knew clearly what had happened above. Shui Bang's show on Jelling Pass had an extremely important effect. The Supreme Ruler still being willing to give his life for the Empire had convinced all the ranking officers, and with their suppression the panic that should have spread through the army never appeared. The entire Jelling Pass was instead filled with an atmosphere of anger aimed at a common enemy. After Marshal Ji Long and the others went to resurrect Tang San, a declaration of fighting to the death was immediately issued. Surrender means slavery. For the future descendants of the Heaven Do Empire, for our families back home, as men of the Heaven Do Empire, we cannot cower. Only in unity can we resist outside enemies. The Lord Sea God isn't dead, only injured. For our hero, I ask each Heaven Do Empire soldier to pray for the Lord Sea God, to pray for him to lead us once again, to unite us against the enemy. Marshal Ji Long's words reached the ears of each Heaven Do soldier. There wasn't a hint of mutiny in the Imperial Army, and instead they were brimming with unity. But even Marshal Ji Long knew that this was just a temporary measure and could only stabilize morale for a while. If poison like what Dugu Bo unleashed one day fell on a Heaven Do army, everything would still be unknown. If that time truly came, even if surrender was necessary, he would still die for the nation, to follow his majesty. In the hall, all the furniture was already cleared away. Xiao Wei held Tang San's body in the center of the room, Ning Rongrong and Oscar standing to either side, and the others standing in a circle, giving them as much space as possible. Right now everyone's expressions were anxious and solemn. If Tang San could be resurrected, then there was still a chance. If Tang San died here, not only would the Heaven Do Empire be extinguished, the Star Luo Empire would equally be unable to escape the clutches of evil. At that time the continent really would completely belong to BB Dong. Whether from the point of view of love, friendship or the entire continent, everyone silently prayed for Tang San. Not just here, all over Jelling Pass, a million troops under the lead of Marshal Ji Long and the ranking officers were already kneeling, praying towards their Lord Sea God, King Lan Hao in the inner hall. In their hearts, King Lan Hao was their eternal god of war, the inextinguishable god of war. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.